Hi, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy White, your host and the founder of the Bobby White Foundation. We're going to do things a little bit backwards, but I'm going to get in our sponsors and everything. Of course, we have to thank Area 52 Media Group and John Gaston, our producer, and my awesome tech guy, Cage. And one of our other main sponsors also is Delynn Gaston with the mortgage firm. Anything mortgages, I say every week. I mean, if you have any questions whatsoever, first-time home buyers, second mortgages, trying to get your credit fixed, getting, she can just walk you through everything that you need as far as getting a mortgage. And with as crazy as the markets are these days, you really need somebody like her. So we have a special guest, and we want to make sure that we can get in all this information. So we'll recap Art for Hope a little bit later in the show. So I was at, and I'd mentioned this, I don't know if it was last week's show, that I was at in a Zoom meeting for Alliance for Healthy Communities, their SAFE program, which is Suicide Awareness Finds Empowerment. And our guest, Tara Sullivan, I met about 6 years ago. She is the area director, coordinator for Central South Florida's American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And if we can bring her on, Cage, she put on, even though I've known her for several years, and we get together at least once a year for the Out of the Darkness Walk, she put on this awesome presentation, and she's gonna do it for the Acute Care for Pasco County also. And so I really wanted to get her on to share all the information that she shared with us. I just thought it was really cool, and we've worked kind of together a little bit. I don't know how you would say it, but anyway, we have. So welcome, Tara. I'm so glad that we were able to get you on our show, and so you can bring all this information about AFSP to the community, a little bit further out than our little local community. So we're really super happy to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much, Tammy, for inviting me to be here during National Suicide Prevention Week. It's my pleasure to speak with you and work with the Bobby Knight Foundation over the past 6 years to bring education and support for survivors of suicide loss to the community. Would you like me to just jump right into my slides and share a little bit about AFSP, about who we are and what we do?
Yeah, go ahead and do that. I think that would be awesome.
Thank you. So a little bit about AFSP. Our mission is to save lives and bring hope to those that are affected by suicide. We are a voluntary health organization that gives those affected by suicide a nationwide community empowered by research, education, and advocacy to take action against this leading cause of death. So the organization was founded in 1987 by a group of researchers and their families who had experienced the loss of a loved one to suicide, and they didn't want anybody else to feel that pain. So they started the organization. Initially, it was primarily founded in research and understanding the brain and suicide. And today, through the grassroots efforts of our volunteers, we have chapters in all 50 states across the United States, and over 1 million people are involved with our work that we do. So, and this is our work that you see right here. We're engaged in research, education, loss and healing, advocacy and public policy, our interactive screening program. And the way that we're able to do this really is through our Out of the Darkness walks, where many times that's the first time people find us. And we have a pretty robust communication and marketing team that helps us to deliver messages that are safe and helps people to safely share their stories. A highlight of the work that we're engaged in includes Project 2025, and I'll get to that in a few slides. But really all the work that we do is done through our chapters, and the Tampa Bay chapter helps to deliver programs across the Bay Area, and it's led by our volunteers, and we bring programs to the workplace. So AFSP is the largest funder of suicide prevention research from the private sector. Our current total investments are $23.7 million, 6.44 million of which go towards 37 new grants. Much of what we've learned about suicide comes from these AFSP funded studies. Our grant applications are reviewed every year by our scientific council, and we have researchers that are applying on an ongoing basis for funding. And then what can happen is they can go on and get additional funding from places like the NIMH. So this is really kind of a first stop for people who are wanting to explore suicide prevention research. And then our focused areas include diversity, technology, and support for survivors. So here's an example of a few of our educational programs. We have about 20 more, but the first one that you see here on the left is an introduction to suicide prevention called Talk Saves Lives. It's about a 45-minute presentation, and it can be delivered in person or virtually. And it teaches people, the scope of the problem of suicide, some of the research findings, and risk factors, warning signs, what we can all do when we think someone might be struggling, or when we recognize in ourselves that we're struggling, where we can reach out and connect with help and support. The middle program highlighted here is called It's Real, College Students and Mental Health, and this is for that college age population, because the age range of 10 to 34 has the suicide as the second leading cause of death. So we really want to educate all populations, but in particular this youth segment, so that they can realize that when they're having struggles with mental health, they can reach out for support and how to recognize it, again, within themselves and in others. And this third one, More Than Sad, it's a program that's designed to teach teachers and to teach parents what to look for in that adolescent age range, and then how to make that referral for ongoing help and support. So again, I mentioned there are over 20 AFSP programs, and then we also have partner programs that we implement within the community, like mental health first aid, youth mental health first aid, SAFE Talk, and then ASSIST, which stands for Applied Suicide Intervention Skills Trainings. So these are some examples of some of our printed materials that we share with the community. Anybody really who reaches out and asks for literature, we try to share it with them. For example, I know Tammy's reached out multiple times, and we've shared some of these materials with her over the course of the few years. And, our objective is to get this literature in as many hands as possible, because while you might not need it for yourself, you certainly might know somebody who would need it, because it's understood that over the course of our lifetime, we'll all probably know someone who dies by suicide. So on our website, we have a series of videos called Voices of Hope. These are really wonderful videos that are by people with lived experience, and that means that they have either made a suicide attempt or have experienced suicidal ideation, and they tell firsthand in their own words, what's helped them during the recovery process, what they wish their loved ones knew and how to support them, and just really the importance of opening up and having an honest conversation about mental health and checking in with one another. So a huge portion of what we do is dedicated to survivors of suicide loss, and these two programs that are featured here on the screen, the first one is International Survivors of Suicide Loss Day. This event always takes place the Saturday prior to the American Thanksgiving this year. It will be on Saturday, November 18th, and you can check our website, afsp.org, and click on Find Help, and this program will be listed on our Survivor Resources page. But essentially, Survivor Day, we typically share a video of somebody else who's experienced the loss of a loved one to suicide, and they'll be a little bit further along in their grief journey, and they will share firsthand, what has helped them, what are some positive coping mechanisms that they have found to help them in their journey, because recovery is a process. It takes time, and takes time to heal. And, there are some healthy coping mechanisms and there are some unhealthy coping mechanisms. We really want to highlight what could be helpful. After we've shared this documentary, we typically break out into breakout groups and have guided discussions and allow folks to connect with one another on a peer-to-peer basis for support and just that listening ear. And we typically provide opportunity to engage in some kind of therapeutic art activity during that day, and it changes from year to year what activity the organizers wish to highlight. And then this next program is called Healing Conversations. Healing Conversations is a wonderful program that's led by our volunteers that have experienced a loss of a loved one to suicide. And when somebody is newly bereaved, they can go to our website. They can request a visit from one of our trained volunteers, and they'll be there to be that empathetic person that shares knowledge of resources and support. And our visits can be done either in person, by phone, or by Zoom. So folks can connect with other loss survivors who understand firsthand what they're going through. These are some examples of some of our loss and healing materials and booklets. This After a Suicide Toolkit for Schools resides on the Florida Department of Education website as a resource, and it was done in collaboration with the SPRC. This book here, Children, Teens, and Suicide Loss, is really a guidebook for adults on how to navigate the conversations with a child who has experienced a loss that are age appropriate, and how to find support and guidance for that young person that has experienced a loss. This blue book is another wonderful resource. It's about 42 pages in length and provides practical information for immediately after the loss. It provides suggested readings and just additional resources on where to reach out and connect with help and support. And then this brochure over here is a high-level overview of all of the support services that we have for those that have lost a loved one to suicide. Another important part of our work is our advocacy. We have a public policy team that is located in Washington, D.C., and they provide guidance and support on how we can reach out to our representatives and ask for support for suicide prevention and mental health. And we have over 33,000 advocates across the country, and they help us to advocate for legislation that makes an impact. So just a few months ago at the beginning of the summer, we were going to Washington, D.C. We were meeting with our representatives, and we were asking for support on various different pieces of legislation, including the support for the Commitment to Veteran Support and Outreach bill. We were asking for our representatives to co-sponsor and support Mental Health Services for Students Act. And if passed, this bill would provide $300 million in grant funding through SAMHSA to help with on-site mental health care services in schools, and it would help to expand the scope of the AWARE grants program. And lastly, we were urging our Congress to provide $836 million in additional funding for 988. So when 988 passed back in 2022 and became a program that was available nationwide for folks to reach out to, one of the things that we knew was that we needed additional funding to ramp up the support that these call centers would have. Prior to the rollout of 988, which is the 3-digit, easy to remember suicide prevention and mental health crisis line, we had the 1-800-273-TALK, which was a difficult to remember number, especially if you're in crisis. But the thing to note about it is we knew we would have an influx in calls, which would mean we would need more staff at the call centers to be able to answer these calls. There would need to be more training. And so one of the ways that AFSP can support this is by asking for additional funding from Congress to be able to help support this rapid growth that has been experienced. So this is one way that anybody can very quickly and easily make an impact is by registering to be an advocate. So we do that in Washington, D.C., and then we also do it in Tallahassee. In Tallahassee, we're hoping eventually, perhaps one day, to pass legislation that would have a telecom fee for supporting our crisis centers. Right now, we all pay telecom fees to support 911. And if we had a similar structure here in Florida to support 988, we would have sustainable funding for our 988 call centers. And it would just be a much better sustainable funding source than always relying on the federal funding. We certainly want that federal funding, but we also want to make sure that we can have something that's sustainable here in the state of Florida. So one of the other programs that AFSP works to roll out and bring to our state here in Florida is our interactive screening program. The interactive screening program is an online program that's utilized by mental health services at institutions of higher learning, and that can include medical and professional degree schools, hospitals and healthcare systems, law enforcement agencies, and workplaces through the assistance of that employee assistance program. And that'll help to identify individuals with barriers for help seeking and then connect them to the services that they need before that crisis emerges. So one of the ways that AFSP is able to fund things like the advocacy, the education, the support for survivors of suicide loss is through our Out of the Darkness walks. In the Tampa Bay area, we have 3, and I'll touch on those in a few minutes. And those are our community walks, and we have campus walks. Those take place on either high school or college campuses, and they're student-led, and they lead them in conjunction with our the school administrators and with our team of volunteers and with the support of AFSP staff. And then we have our overnight walk. This is typically a 16-mile walk that's done overnight. It rotates from city to city where it's held each year. This past year, it was held in Washington, D.C. After participants have completed their 16 miles of walking through the night, they go back to where they had started, and the path is illuminated by luminaries that they have decorated and dedicated to why they're walking, whether it's for themselves because they personally struggle, or they decorated their luminary bag for someone that they have lost. And it really provides that light as they walk out of the darkness overnight. It's quite a powerful event, and I recommend anybody the opportunity to go and be a part of it. So our communications department, as I had mentioned, makes sure that AFSP's brand and messaging is consistent and that it's safe. And they help to facilitate all of AFSP's printed materials and brochures that I had shared on some of the previous slides. They help us to come up with public service announcements and public service awareness campaigns like Seize the Awkward, which is done in collaboration with the Ad Council and the JED Foundation. It's really aged at that, or geared for that age of 10 to 24 years old. And then we have Real Conversation Guides, which give people practical guidance on how they can navigate conversations about mental health. We understand that it might not come naturally to people, how to start a conversation about suicide prevention, or if somebody's lost someone, what might be the right thing to say. So our communications department has come up with these guides that are very helpful in initiating conversations. And then we provide storytelling and conversation guidelines, because when we know that suicide is talked about safely, we can help reduce the likelihood of its occurrence. So Seize the Awkward is, again, for the age range 16 to 24, and it's led by YouTube stars, and there's a series of videos that you can go online and check out, and it acknowledges the fact that it can be a little awkward to reach out and ask somebody how they're doing about their mental health, but it portrays that it's possible, and that, in fact, asking somebody if they're having thoughts of suicide will let them know that the person asking understands what they're going through, and then can help to connect them with resources. So here's some of the examples of some of the printed materials in the Real Conversation Guide. So one of the things that I like to highlight about speaking out about suicide is about some of the language that we use. So we're really trying to change the way that people talk about suicide. And one of the ways that we can do this is by eliminating some vocabulary from our conversations. So, for example, we encourage people to say died by suicide, took his or her own life, and we discourage the use of the phrase committed suicide, because committed really denotes maybe that a crime took place. It has a lot of judgment and stigma with it when you use that word commit. And it's just really not an accurate portrayal of what's happening when somebody is considering suicide or actually died by suicide. What that person was going through was a health crisis, a mental health crisis, and nothing was committed. You would not say someone committed diabetes or someone committed cancer. We don't talk like that. And so we really want to change the way we talk about suicide so that it encourages people to reach out and connect with help and resources and support. So our Project 2025, back in 2015, AFSP launched a really bold goal to reduce the suicide rate 20% by 2025. And the way that we feel that this could be most quickly achieved is through 4 critical areas, the first of which is firearms education, and that's really educating the firearms owning community about what mental health distress looks like, and then what to do should someone in their household be experiencing a crisis. Over half of all suicides that are completed in the United States are done so by firearms. And so if we can educate the firearm owning community about what mental health distress looks like, and then safely removing the firearms from the home or keeping them locked and stored properly while that crisis is emerging. We can help to save lives. And then in the healthcare systems and the emergency room departments, we know that in the months leading up to a suicide, many times people have either gone to their primary care physician or they've gone to the emergency room. And we want to make sure that we're screening for this risk when people are going in and getting health care. And then lastly, in our correction systems, it's really about educating everybody that is in the correction setting, from everybody that works there to the folks that are incarcerated. There should be no reason why we lose anybody when they're under constant surveillance, yet it happens. So this is an area where we can focus and hopefully reduce the suicide rates. So at the local level, I had mentioned we are in all 50 states. There's a chapter in your area. So if you're not watching just from the Tampa Bay area, or if you're in town watching from the Tampa Bay area, know that you can go home and connect with your local chapter and engage in the work that we're doing. Our chapters really are our drivers of the work that we're doing. They help to create a culture that's smart about mental health by helping to deliver the educational programs, by sharing the research, getting involved in the advocacy, and by supporting other loss survivors. And effectively, we want to get involved with anybody who wants to join our cause. Families, mental health professionals, community leaders, school administrators. This is really going to have to be a community-wide approach to mental health so that we can drive down suicide rates. So this is what the state of Florida looks like in terms of how our chapters are divided. You can see here the green chapters are the Tampa Bay chapter, and that's Citrus, Hernando, Hillsborough, Pasco, Pinellas, and Sumter counties. You can connect with your local chapter. The Tampa Bay chapter website is afsp.org/chapters/Tampa-Bay. This is Jessica Toy. She is our programs manager. She is responsible for implementing AFSP approved programs within the Tampa Bay chapter. This is me. I provide leadership and management to the chapters within the assigned geographical area that I oversee, which is Central and Southern Florida. Supervised staff, I oversee non-event fundraising, public education, advocacy, volunteer development, and increasing awareness of the organization through community outreach and collaboration. We have our walks in the Tampa Bay area coming up. The first one actually coming up is on October 23rd in St. Petersburg, and you can go to afsp.org/St. Pete to register for that one. The Pasco County Out of the Darkness Walk, which Tammy and the Bobby White Foundation have been involved with for the past 6 years, it will be taking place at Sims Park in Newport Richey on Saturday, November 4th. And to register for the Pasco Walk, you can go to afsp.org/Pasco, or you can scan this QR code and sign up. You can get involved in as many ways as you want. You can sign up to walk and form a team. You can actually volunteer on the committee that helps to organize the event. You can help by sponsoring. You can help by promoting the walk, or if you want, you can come and you can volunteer the day of. And then our last walk of the year will be in Tampa. It'll be at Al Lopez Park on the 3rd of December. And you can learn more about the Tampa Walk at afsp.org/Tampa Walk. I want to highlight some of our upcoming programs that we have that will be implemented by Jessica Toy, who I introduced to you on a few slides before. On October 4th, we will have a virtual presentation of Talk Saves Lives from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. And then we'll have another one in January on the 19th. A little later this month, we will have a Talk Saves Lives, an introduction to suicide prevention for Latinx and Hispanic communities. It'll be from 6:30 to 8 p.m. on September 21st. In February of next year, we will have Talk Saves Lives, an introduction to LGBTQ suicide prevention. And that will be from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on February 7th. On November 28th, we will be doing the program Introduction to Supporting Those at Risk. And then we'll do it again in January. On November 8th, we will have a presentation of More Than Sad, a parent training. And that will be from 6:30 to 7:30 on November 8th. And again on January 18th. If you're interested in learning how you can present some of these programs, Jessica has a couple of upcoming training for presenters that is coming up. The first one will be on Thursday, November 16th at 6 p.m. And then she'll do one again in January on the 31st at 6 p.m. If you'd like to be trained to be able to do a presentation, you would need to be in contact with Jessica Toy directly. And if these days don't work for you, she can help to identify some other dates for you. Her email address is jtoy@afsp.org. We have a couple of special upcoming in-person programs that I also would like to highlight. The first one is a suicide bereavement support group facilitator training. And this is really designed for somebody who would like to facilitate their own support group for survivors of suicide loss. It's a 2-day training, and it teaches everything about how to run a support group. As a peer-to-peer support group, it gives you really quite a few tools to be able to safely and effectively lead a group. The training dates will be December 7th and 8th, and you can learn more about signing up for this in-person program at sgftfl.attendees.com. And then in January of next year, on January 6th, we will be hosting a 1-day program called Soul Shop. And Soul Shop is really designed for faith community leaders to offer support and hope to their congregations. And you can learn more about it at soulshoptampa.attendees.com. So I just wanted to say, again, thank you to Tammy for inviting me on today's program to share more about AFSP and the work that we're engaged in, and the wonderful work that she's doing with the Bobby White Foundation. Thank you, Tammy.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing all that information, because it's so much. And we try and share a little bit each time we do a show. Those short videos we started, we've only shown one so far because it was right after I saw you. And so we're taking like a video a week and going to share that. And all that literature, you know, like she said, is available to everyone if you contact the organization. But we also have pretty much every piece of literature that they publish in our foundation office that is available. And we always have it with us when we're out on doing events. So the information is available. When we had Art for Hope, the table was covered in the information that Tara sent me. We needed to stock up on some new stuff. But And the healing conversations, I wanted to mention because that's how I met Teresa Daniels. And she was in some of those pictures when you went to Tallahassee, and she's also in charge of this year's Out of the Darkness Walk for Pasco County. We've had her on the show before, and we're gonna get her back on the show before the walk again. And her and I ended up becoming really good friends. Our losses were different, but they were still suicide losses. She lost her son, I lost my husband, but we almost immediately became, really good friends, this whole time. She supports me at my foundation, and I support her with AFSP. And the foundation will be at the Pasco Walk again this year. And I guess I'm going to be the MC this year.
Yeah, we're excited to have you as the MC.
I know. Teresa was at our event Thursday, and we were just so busy that I couldn't even ask her about the meeting you guys had. So I texted her the next day, and I'm like, "What's going on? What's happening? You got to tell me." And she goes, "Yes, you're going to be the MC." I was like, "Yay!" So I'm really proud to be able to do that and to represent AFSP and more to represent our community. To let people know that, you really don't have to go at this alone. And what I really like about AFSP and what you said in your presentations, because we've done this all along with the foundation, is it's going to take, and it does take, the entire community. No one organization is going to be able to fix this. It takes all of us, and we're all good at what we do. We're all good at what we do when we do it together, and that has always been so important to me, is that all these community organizations, we all come together and we work together for this cause, because it's gonna get worse before it gets better if we don't do this together.
Yeah, I think the one thing that sometimes we fail to remember is that each and every single one of us has mental health, right?
Yeah.
And we all have to take care of it. And there's nobody that is not affected by this. A better way to phrase it, we're all impacted by it. We all have mental health. We all can check in with one another. We can also, listen to ourselves, right? And realize when we might be having struggles and communicating that openly and without the stigma. Because, like you said, we all face challenges. We all, come to this cause with a different connection. You lost your husband, and you didn't want anybody else to feel that pain. Teresa lost her son, and she didn't want anybody else to feel that pain. And it is going to take a community to change the dialogue. And I think we can make significant changes and impacts by even just the two of us having conversation today.
Exactly. And that's why I wanted to start this so long ago. I mean, I met you before the Bobby White Foundation. But, just like, the programs have, talk saves lives. We need to talk about it. It's the only way that we're going to reduce the stigma, and getting people comfortable to have open conversations and not be afraid to talk. That's how one of the ways that we're going to be able to try and combat this. But I know that you have to go, so I just want to thank you for being on here. I really appreciate it, and I will be seeing and talking to you sooner rather than later.
Well, thank you again, Tammy. I just think the world of you and the work that you're doing, and I am so glad I was able to participate on today's show, and I wish you a wonderful rest of the National Suicide Prevention Week and the work that you're doing.
All right, same to you. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye. So I was so happy we could get her on. Started out a little rough in the beginning. We had a little bit of technical difficulties, but hey, it all worked out. So yeah, so the Out of the Darkness Walk for Pasco is November 3rd, but all this information that she shared with us on the show, we'll make sure that we're continually updating both the show Facebook page and the foundation Facebook page and the foundation website also will have all this information up there as things start getting closer, so that we can share with you and you can be aware if you want to help or participate. Like I said, I'm excited to be the MC for the Pasco Walk. We've participated in the Pasco Walk since before the foundation was even formed, which we'll continue to do. So anyways, I know it was a lot of information, but you know, this show is available on demand on our Facebook, or not, well, probably on our Facebook page too, but also on the Bobby White Foundation website. So, but we'll keep updating stuff and adding stuff and making sure that everybody is kept abreast of what's going on and what's available. She, like I said, she did give a lot of information, but I just, after I saw her presentation, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, I just knew I had to get her on the show so that she could share with all you guys. We can make our reach a little bit further than just the Tampa Bay area, and get the information out to people that, people like you and me, the organizations where she has been speaking is community organizations like Alliance for Healthy Communities, and she gave her presentation, like I said, at the SAFE program for Alliance for Healthy Communities and for the Pasco Acute Care team. But this way, you all get it too. So, anyways, so I got to catch my breath here because every time I see that, I just take in more information all the time. But like I said, any of that literature is available through the foundation also if you're local. So now we're going to recap Art for Hope, which was last week. And last week was a crazy week with Art for Hope and a few other things that were going on. We had got all set up for Art for Hope. Was awesome. My volunteers, I just cannot say enough about them. They were just great. Our sponsors, I'm going to go through our sponsor list. So I have, page, I don't know, a picture of him. I don't know what it is. But anyways, so our Da Vinci sponsor was No Naked Walls. There it is. That's what I was trying to say. Our Da Vinci sponsor, which was one of our higher level sponsors, No Naked Walls, not only were they a sponsor financially, but they also loaned us some print bins and easels for the artwork. And they attended the event, and I really super appreciated that, because we just didn't have with all the artwork we had, we just didn't have enough display things for the art. So they were really great. It's really nice when you can work together with another organization and another business. You know, I sell art and custom framing, and they sell art and custom framing. But we work so well together. You know, sometimes I'll have a job, or somebody will come to me with a job, and it's something that either I don't have the time to do, or there could be some other thing, so I'll go ahead and send them to No Naked Walls. Sometimes they have customers come in that they have jobs that they can't do, and so they send them to me. It's just really great to have that working relationship with them. At our other sponsors, or our Dolly sponsors, Annie's Pet Sitting, Giles Inspection Services, they are new for sponsorship, and Precision Survey and Mapping. They have actually sponsored Art for Hope every year. Precision Surveying Mapping is the survey company that Bobby worked for many, many years. Picasso sponsors Suncoast Win, Women in Networking, and also Reuters Networking is also a sponsor. I can't say enough about our photographer, Rick Redman. He's been with us since the beginning also, and he was our featured artist that night. Also, Leanne's Cookies, our dessert sponsor. She's been our dessert sponsor for the last couple of years, and before she left that evening, she signed up to be the dessert sponsor for 2024. So we're excited about that. We just closed out this event, and now we're starting to prepare for next year's event. And Leanne was the first one on board. But I also want to thank a couple people, Joanna and Larry DeLuca. They donated a bunch of artwork for the event. And Robert Coons, he was a featured artist. I think it was our second one. It was just before COVID, I believe. He was one of our featured artists, and he donated a bunch of his artwork. So we were really grateful for that. And of course, the gallery, we have tons of artwork. But it was a really good event. Like I said, the volunteers really stepped up. There's a couple other people that I really have to thank too, is Kim and Mitch Rymanowski. Kim actually was our MC, and she did a really great job. There's Kim. She it was difficult for her, but I am so proud of what she did. Our feedback already has just been tremendous with the job that she did, and talking a little bit about the foundation, some statistics, but making it real, because she imparted her what she went through with the death of her father. So she shared her experience along with what she was talking about in a really effective way, and I was so proud of her. I know she couldn't look at anybody in the eyes because she would start crying, but she did a tremendous job. She really did. And our other speaker was my sister-in-law, Mary Keene, and when I asked her, we've had her as a guest on the show also. She's one of Bobby's sisters, and she wrote a love letter to Bobby. And I'm going to have her make me a copy of what she wrote. I really wish we would have videotaped some of this, but we just get so involved in so much to do that sometimes it's just too much to incorporate. But she did a really great job, and my brother-in-law was there, and one of our nephews, Brady, I was really glad to see him. That was the first event that he attended for Art for Hope. It was good. So Cage, if you can, I think we have a couple other pictures of just like the artwork set up and people. Yeah, the volunteers did a really great job setting up the artwork in the room, and and I didn't even have to do it. They did it. They sometimes just kick me out, which is good, because otherwise I could may get too frazzled and they can't handle me. But there was some of the people in the audience that were listening to the speakers, and yeah, it was a really nice event. And of course, the Hilton Garden Inn, that's where we've had this event every year that we've been able to have it in person. So, and they are just, they're just so good to us every year. The staff, all the staff, the chef, he never lets me down, and he came out and he even said, he goes, "I'm not going to let you down, Tammy." And I was like, I know you won't. He's a really good chef and really super sweet, and they just they work with us really well. The event, we got over a little bit earlier than what we have in the past, but we had so much stuff there. And this was the craziest thing. So we're getting ready, like the picture you saw, all the artwork all set up, all ready, and Mitch Romanowski, one of our other volunteers, Kim's husband, he is the one who takes care of people checking out if they purchase artwork, or sometimes if they're getting their raffle tickets or something. So we had everything all set up. We did these QR codes for Square. Now, any of you out there that have a retail business or any business where you take Square, you may have ran into this Thursday night on September 7th. Mitch and I did a run through. We had everything working and made sure everything, the new QR code was working. He could run it, through the little swiper thing. So I get ready to show one of our volunteers, so that if Mitch got busy and the people felt comfortable, they could run the sale themselves. So we go and I start to scan it, and it's not working on her phone. And I'm like, oh no. So we start to scan it. It's not working on my phone. And I'm like, we just did this 45 minutes ago. It was working. She logged out of her Square account, couldn't log back in. I logged out of my Gallery Square account to try and log into the Foundation Square account. Not working. So she Googled it. Square went down that night. Part of the time we could process stuff offline, and then it got where we couldn't even do that. It was crazy. And earlier, a couple hours before that, I was like, oh, this is so great. Everything is running so smoothly. No nerves. We had everything all set up. We were all ready to go. And then just before the event started, Square went down. But everybody that attended and that purchased stuff, they were very gracious, very patient with us, and it ended up running smoothly, and thank goodness for Mitch. So then, when we were talking about it, we were all kind of like standing around trying to figure out what to do, because usually we don't get everything out of the room until the next morning, because we had so much stuff. So this is where I really want to thank my producer, John Gaston, and his wife, who is also one of our sponsors, and Mitch, and a couple of our other volunteers came in Friday morning, loaded everything into John's trailer, so it was all nice and safe. Because they wouldn't let me come down, because I had to drive down to Fort Myers for a funeral for my professor, which I'd mentioned a couple shows before. And just so it wasn't just a total funeral-y day, I got to have lunch with one of my old friends. We've known each other since 5th grade, and we haven't seen each other since our 20-year class reunion. And we had so much fun for just a 2-hour period having lunch together. And I was really grateful for that. But I didn't get home until 11 o'clock Friday night. And so between Art for Hope, trying to get things squared away, to what happened with the square. I was really happy I was able to attend Mike Smith's funeral. He was a big influence on me getting my bachelor's and master's degree and getting comfortable speaking in front of people. He just, he was a important mentor in my life, and I was one of the older students, if not the oldest student, but it was, and the theme of his funeral pretty much was how great of a teacher and a mentor he was to everybody, from people like me to his grandchildren. So I wouldn't have been able to do any of that if it wasn't for all my volunteers. So I graciously want to thank you all for that. So, Cage, let's show our 800 numbers or the 988 numbers. These are important phone numbers that really, please make sure you have this contact information in your phone. You never know when you're going to need it. We also have some little wallet-sized cards available at the foundation if you're interested in having those. And our positive quote for the show is, "We don't heal in isolation, but in community." And that's kind of what the theme of today's show was. Of course, we try and emphasize that, all the time, but with Tara here with AFSP, we just want to reinforce that. You don't have to go this alone. It's going to take a community. I mean, I know I couldn't have done it alone, and I didn't. I'm fortunate. I had the community, and I'm so grateful. So remember, there's always hope. Thank you.